All right, here I have a tray with 72 sails. Inside, it's basically a homemade seed starter soil. It's 5 parts sphagnum moss, sphagnum peat moss, 1 part perlite. I also have some compost and some granular fertilizer mixed in. Just basically anytime I do any cuttings, I kind of use a seed starter soil. In the bucket, I have 77 cuttings, all about 6 to 8 inches. It suggests around 6 inches. Some are a little shorter, but most are long. In the bucket with it, so it's in water, 1 gallon of water. The mix is 3 teaspoons of a rooting concentrate. I use KLN, but there's plenty out there. In addition, there's a Nature Source professional plant food. I use 1 teaspoon per gallon. And then the third item was a Dyna-Gro liquid grow, just another something to help it get started growing. In addition, I have here a cutting board, a scalpel, disposable, really cheap. You can get 10 packs on Amazon for relatively nothing. Basically, I use them mostly just once, but every now and again I'll sterilize it with alcohol and use it again if I don't use it that much. Doesn't really call for soaking in this bucket. The reason I do it is just because if I do have any pest or disease on the plant, I want to take as many precautions to get them off the plant. My goal is not to take any, but if I miss a bug or so, I want it to get taken off in there. And I also don't want them to wilt and die while I'm working on cutting it. All right, so in addition, I have here, you'll see number 1 on this cup. Inside, it's a rooting hormone. Hormex makes a 3-pack. Value pack. They have a number 1, a number 3, and a number 8, all in the value pack. Number 1 is for the easiest to clone plants, and number 3 is moderate, and a number 8 is a little bit harder. They do have other numbers, but those are the 3 basic ones that I use. All right, and what we'll do is I just take out a handful, put them on the napkin. I want to soak them off. I have pre-trimmed all of these, so you'll see some cuttings, some limbs from each node that are gone already. I do that with just some regular shears to get it ready, and then I come back through with a scalpel and really clean it up. The biggest thing here is I like to go a little bit bigger on these. So in most clones, I probably would have stopped right here if it was long enough, but this one wasn't. I was shooting for more about 6 inches. Really good solid roots. So what I do is I'm gonna just come down and I'm gonna take all these little nodes off, if you will, little growths. I'm gonna do it up here as well. Just don't want the nutrients to go to anywhere but where I need it to, producing roots. All right, and the last thing I really do here is a 45-degree angle cut. Something to this extent. If you're OCD like me, don't spend too much time on the details. I don't like it to be super wet. It'll make it clot or make big gold bulbs, kind of like cat litter clumping. So it'll clump if it's too wet. So I try to make sure it's not too wet. I go in, I get plenty on. I like to bang it off a little bit. Any excess, my goal is just to get it right where the cutting is, the 45-degree angle. And then I just push it right into this soil. I did wet the soil with this same solution, basically the same mixture ratio, what have you. And I wet the soil, pre-wet the soil. I will water it in once I get all the plants planted, and that's one. This is going to be a process I repeat 71 more times. Now the biggest thing I do is I like to make sure I cut extra. I want to have at least 2 or 3 more cuttings that I need in case I mess up. Sometimes when you're trying to take these little former leaves off or nodes off, sometimes you'll cut the whole plant off. And when you do that, if you cut just enough, then you might be in trouble, have to go cut more. Biggest thing you need to do with this is take your time. If you're in a hurry, you're going to make mistakes. Take your time and make sure you do it right.
Why are you wearing gloves?
Always do. One, it suggests with rooting concentrate, just never let it come in contact with your skin. I don't know if it's going to hurt you, but I don't take any chances. Also, I don't want to get anything that might be on my hands, grease, oil on the plant, could mess the plant up. So it's really just as much for plant safety as it is for my own safety. Just don't get too bogged down with the angle cut. 45 degrees, what you think looks like 45 degrees is good. The biggest thing though is if you have little nodes down here, you want to make sure you get all this off. Anything down there that could cause any rot, disease, or what have you, get it off. All right, just plant it in. And it's just a slow process. The last step really to completing this, and I'll do this after, I use a 7-inch humidity dome. I put it on. I just have vents on both sides. Honestly, there's so many mixed reviews online how long to keep it on, but the best thing I've ever heard, I wasn't doing it like this before, the best thing you want to do is keep the dome on for long enough that it takes root. So one thing I notice is it says 7 to 10 days online. Well, some plants do root in that quick. Some plants don't. So take an hour test. Like I did it today actually with another batch of plants that I did. So these are star jasmines I did about 11 days ago. I took the humidity dome off today. Basically, I took it off, set an hour timer to come back and check it. I'm checking for any wilting. If I noticed any of the wilting, I'm going to put the dome back on. I go another hour timer, come back, check it again. Any wilting, put the dome back on. Fortunately for these, I had no wilting, so they are good to go. I don't need to return the dome. This is a perfect cutting. I like the size of this. It's just nice thickness to it and everything, but I wanted to specifically talk about this to show you why I cut it so big. So first and foremost, I've already taken the nodes off here. I'm gonna do this. I don't like to go towards my body, or go towards my hand, but I'm just doing it really shallow and soft to clean this up. So once you cut these little leaves off, there's also little nodes where new branches are going to be growing in behind it or under it usually. So you want to make sure you get as many of those off so you're fertile, so everything is going towards the focus on this plant right now is going towards producing roots. All right, the last reason I like to cut it a little bit longer here is it gives me some room, some flexibility. This is about a 7-inch cut or so. I go in at about an inch and a half. Make my 45-degree angle cut. If you mess it up, no big deal. Don't get too hampered with it, but if you need to fix it, do it again. But this gives me plenty of room to work with. When I'm working with something really small, any error, it's over. I have to just throw it out and use another one. That helps save me fewer cuts and make sure I get better success. All right, we're almost wrapped up. We'll talk about what I do before I put the dome on. All right, the final step I like to do is water it in. So in this, yeah, smart water, it's not. It's the same mixture as I soaked it in before. So I have KLN rooting concentrate, a Dyna-Gro liquid grow. Kind of like this to just kind of kickstart the growth. I don't use it regularly. I just use it initially on this initial water. And in addition, I have another plant food in. Basically, just fill it in these bottles so I can target the sales and I don't get it all over the place. That's the biggest thing. So a little bit goes a long way. And my goal is not to take this humidity dome off for a minimum of a week. And then usually at the 7-day mark, I'm going to water it again. I'm going to spray it again. So we'll go through the spray part next, but I'll spray it again. And I like to put it back on, to be honest with you. If I feel like I see a lot of new growth, yeah, I mean, maybe you can leave it off, but you know, I've never had a problem where I've left the dome on too long. So I'm not saying that that's not a case that can happen. It's just never happened for me. I usually target the 7 to 10 day mark. 10 days be the day that I think I'm going to take it off. And again, I like to do the wilt test. So I'll take it off for an hour, go check it. If I see any wilting, put the dome back on. If I don't, then I'm going to leave the dome off for another hour. Check it. If no wilting, After that, 2 hours is pretty good. I actually did today 3 hours and had no wilting for the jasmines that I did. So it's all good. I left the dome off and it's going to stay off. So we're almost done here. Now finishing up. And the last step will be to spray the plant's water bottle and then cover it up with a dome. All right, so in this water bottle, I just have water and this KLN rooting solution. I use 3 teaspoons per gallon of water, and then naturally I fill up my gallons of water and then I dump it in here. I'm really spraying just to get the humidity up in my dome. Also, if you see a few of these plants, they have white up top around the leaves. I might have cut something. I might have taken just a little bit more than the nodes off. So I put the rooting concentrate there as well, hopefully to help it heal. All right, so I feel like that's plenty. What's gonna happen is I'll put this dome on, make sure I don't smash anything. I like to use like popsicle sticks to write on what type of plants if I'm going to divide it up. But since this is all firebush, 72 firebushes, I don't need to decipher it. Now, if I'm going to put it outside, I like to use like a little piece of masking tape here to hold it down here, here, and here. If you have a problem where there's holes in the dome, which we don't have, so that's not a problem. But if you do, maybe tape it up. I've used cling wrap or cellophane or whatever. I also use that big old packing tape, the clear packing tape all the way around to make sure it's a tight seal. The whole point is to get the humidity up. So if air's getting out, then that's probably not happening. Now what I do after 7 days, I'm going to take this dome off, I'm going to water it, I'm going to spray it, and I'll keep track of it throughout the 7 days. If I see that it's going to be drying out quicker, I'm going to spray it, water it, so on and so forth. But at the 7 day mark, I'm going to open up these vents here to let some air in, reduce the humidity, try to keep the any mold down, whatnot. But I keep it closed for the first 7 days no matter what, and then go from there. Hope you found this helpful.